Hey Mama, I'm so glad you're here. We are chatting today about how to tame your tongue and the importance of our words. This is an incredibly important topic, especially in building a Christian home, because our words are one of our main ways of communicating. God has blessed us with communication through words. There is no other species in the world that can communicate through words. I mean, some animals have the ability to speak phrases here and there, but when you think about it, every other animal has to use body language in order to communicate, or sounds. But we as humans have been blessed with words, and God uses words to communicate with us. And it's so important that we are being careful with how we are using our words. I think we forget the gift that we have, the gift of gab, the gift to be able to talk and to convey ourselves through language. And so it is an incredibly important piece of motherhood and just being a woman in general. Women, we like to talk. We like to get together in groups and have conversations, and that's often how we express ourselves. It's often how we analyze certain things. If you are a person who thinks out loud, it's probably how your brain operates. That's just how it's processing information. Maybe you like to write things down, or talk it out with somebody. All of those things require the gift of language. They require words, and our words are a glimpse to our soul. It's a glimpse into who we are as a person. And so we do need to be careful about the words that we are using, especially in our homes, because we can tear our homes down with our words, or we can build our homes up. And in the way that we are communicating with our children, with our spouse, with the people who come into our homes, and how we are speaking about people who are not present, our conversations that we're having about other people. All of those things are incredibly important. So I have got 7 plus 1, there's a bonus verse, so 8 verses for you today that will help us remember the importance of words. And some of these verses are actually good for kids as well, and I will explain that as we get to them, because these are things that some of our kids need as well, as they are learning how to use language and how they are communicating with each other, with you, with their friends. All of it important for teaching them as well. And they are learning from you in how you are behaving as well. And so that's why it's so important that we're being so careful in what we are saying and how we are saying things. So wherever you're at today, Mama, grab that cup of tea. If you're on the go, then get the volume turned up on this one, and let's get into it. Hey Mama, I know you're busy. You're living in piles of laundry, you don't know what you're making for your next meal, and there's a really annoying kid song stuck in your head. And through all of this, you're wondering how you're going to build a joyful Christian home. How do I know all of this? Because that was me. Hi, I'm Alyssa, teacher turned stay-at-home boy mom, blogger, podcaster, and Jesus lover. And I know that while this motherhood journey is beautiful, it's also messy. And the best way to enjoy it is to invite God into our chaos and let Him be the rest that we so desperately need. So together, let's strengthen your relationship with God. Let's build a Christian home that is built on biblical truths and enjoy this motherhood journey. You got this, Mama. I process information audibly. I actually just learned this, just in the last little while, I don't know, this year, that I am not an auditory learner, meaning that I do not retain information that is given to me audibly. If you tell me something, there is a good chance I'm going to forget or not understand. But I process information audibly, and that's often how I will process a situation. If something has happened, I need to talk it out. If I'm trying to understand something or explain something, I typically need to say it out loud first. And I have learned that I need to be careful who I am doing this with or to, that sometimes it's better if I'm just doing it by myself, because I'm processing something. I'm saying things that I'm just trying to make sense of it. And so I'm not always necessarily saying how I really feel, or, maybe I am saying what I feel. I'm feeling frustrated or angry, but it's just in that moment as I'm processing the information. And so I am learning. I am, again, as you get older, I find you learn a lot more than you did when you were little, that I have to be really, really careful about who I'm talking to, and that I'm talking to somebody that I trust, somebody that I know, that, if I have to wait until later before I process the information, so maybe I can do it alone, because that is just how I operate. And I know that my words matter. That even if what you're saying isn't necessarily what you think or what you feel, it's just something that you're trying to get off your chest, you can kind of feel better. You need to be careful about who you're saying it to. And that maybe you just need to say it to God, because God is not going to judge you for getting something off of your chest. Because our words really, really matter. And sometimes we need to tame our tongues, because maybe we are just processing something and we're just sort of word vomit. And we're saying things that maybe don't need to be said, or we're saying things out of anger or frustration or fear, that maybe it's just not appropriate. Or the person who is hearing it, maybe they're getting the effect of our words that they don't really need to be receiving. Because our words can sting. They linger in the air long after they are said. And it's really hard to retract them. It's really, really hard to say, oh, you know what, I didn't mean that. I remember hearing somewhere, and I don't know if this is true or where I heard this, but that if misinformation is put out there to the public, that they are more likely to believe that misinformation, even if they retract it and give the correct information. People are still more likely to believe the first thing that they heard. And we think about that in first impressions and just all of it, that oftentimes the first things that we hear are often what linger. It's what we hold on to. The introduction is really important. In a movie, they want to catch the viewer's attention at the beginning. Those are the things that will stick with you. And so your words matter. Those words are really, really important. And sometimes we may struggle with that. And I know for myself, I have a temper. I get frustrated really easily. And I have really had to work on slowing myself down and reminding myself who I'm speaking to, first of all. If I'm speaking to my children or to my husband, are they deserving of the words that I am giving them? And is it actually going to help my situation? And so that's what I'm talking about today, are some verses to help you tame your tongue, or just to remind you that whatever situation you are in, to consider what is appropriate. Because, yeah, it is appropriate sometimes to use a disciplinary word, or a word of I like to say words of steel, my teacher voice, to let my kids know that mama means business. But are we being appropriate for the situation? And so that's what I'm getting into. So I've got 7 plus 1. There's actually 8 verses for you today. So the first one is James 3 verse 5-6, and I am starting off on a heavy one, just so you know. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire. And like I said, kind of a harsh thing. And when we think about, we so often say that actions speak louder than words. And in many cases, that is very true. But in many cases, people have destroyed their lives by the words that they have said. Lies, dishonesty, the ways that they have broken relationships, and the things that they have said. Our words have a lot of power, to either for good. They can build things up. They can teach people things. They can encourage people. But they also can do the complete opposite. Tear people down. They can rip people to shreds. We know what happens when people are constantly being or hearing words of negativity. It really can destroy people's lives, and it can destroy the person who is speaking. It will destroy your life eventually. It will catch up with you. And then the second verse that I have is also kind of along those lines as Proverbs 21:23. Those who guard their mouths and their tongues keep themselves from calamity. And so this is really what we're talking about, is that we need to be aware of what we're saying, that we need to guard our mouths and our tongues and really consider what we're saying. Is it necessary? Is what we're saying necessary? Or is the emotion behind the word necessary? Does it really need to be said? Or maybe we need to be picking a different emotion. Maybe we need to just sit for a second, just take a minute and think about what we're going to talk about before we say it. Okay, so before I start mixing all of my verses together, let's move on to number 3. Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And this is a verse that I pray over my son. My son is he's got really good language skills. He talks a lot. He's a really, really quick kid. He listens well, like he hears things, he picks things up, which is good and bad because he comes home asking about what words mean, and some of those words are not necessarily good words. I'm pretty sure he's hearing them on the bus, but and so he's got that language, those language skills. He also can have a really sharp tongue, and it stings. It hurts sometimes, the way that he will speak to me or his brother or his dad. And I can only imagine that that's going to cause problems with his friends or teachers. If he happens to end up with a teacher that he doesn't get along with, it's going to be a struggle. And so I will say this verse to him, or I will pray it over him, that he is looking for ways to build people up, that he is saying things that are helpful, that it's things that they need to hear, that he's not saying things that people don't need to hear, that is not a benefit to them, that if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. It's right there in that verse in Ephesians. And it's a really good reminder for our children that as they're learning, as they're developing, they're figuring things out. They're learning what's appropriate and what's not. And it's something that we have to help them with is, you know what, that doesn't really need to be said. You don't need to point that out. You don't need to make that statement. Helping them learn that if pointing something out about a person's appearance, if it's not something the person can change in the next 10 minutes, it doesn't need to be said. We don't need to be pointing those things out. And just helping them understand that their words have a really big impact, and that they need to be choosing words that are going to build that person up, build the other person up. We want to speak words of truth, but we're not speaking words of truth that are going to tear somebody down. We want to make sure that it's a way that we can encourage that person. Truth and encouragement need to go hand in hand. Okay, so number 4 is Proverbs 15, verse 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And again, this is important for our children, for ourselves. I know as a teacher, and when I was working in retail, that oftentimes people would come at you angry or upset, and all they needed to do was just get it off their chest. And if they were met with anger, that it just made the situation worse. But if I was just that open door where they could just go and kind of unload, and I had this very gentle spirit and just said, hey, like, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. What can I do to help make it better? That it often diffused the situation. And that's what we want our children to learn. And that's what we as ourselves as moms, we need to use too quite a bit, is when we're coming into a situation, if your kids have been fighting or they've broken something, if we fly in there with anger, it's only going to stir the pot. It's only going to make it worse. And this is something that I have been having to pray for myself, is reminding myself that I need to come into situations with gentleness, that gentle spirit is going to turn away wrath. It's going to help diffuse what's going on. That if I approach things calmly and remember that we're all human here, and that my words are going to linger in the air, it really, really helps to take it down a notch, take it from that, that 10 down to like a 7, and so that we can manage things without having like a complete meltdown where everybody just walks away angry. Okay, number 5, James 1, verse 19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And here we see again this idea that anger should not be present in our words, that we need to listen first and we need to be slow to speak, that it's actually less is more. And with children, I know this is true, that if your child needs disciplined, less is more. The less you say to them, the more they are going to hear. And if you try and do a long-winded lecture, they're probably going to lose it. They're not going to know, like they're going to get fidgety. The whole sentiment is gone. They just lose it. Whereas if you're just quick into the situation, you are not providing them with an earful. It's just a really quick, nope, we don't act like this. This is not how, we expect you to behave. But you leave the anger out of it, they are going to respond so much better. So much better. And just people in general are going to be like that. If you leave the anger out of it, if you walk into the situation without the anger, and you remember that most people are going to respond better to just a quick word, it makes things so much easier, because then you're not going in there long-winded and just going on and on and on and on and on, and they lose the whole point. They lose the thesis in your words. Okay, number 7, Psalm 141, verse 3. Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. This is important. As I said, that your words are a glimpse at your heart. It is showing who you are on the inside. And while we may have emotions and feelings that come and go like waves, we also want to make sure that we are showing that we are Christ-like, that we are trying to be gentle. Jesus was gentle. When you think about the words that he said to people, there were times when, yes, he was angry or he expressed himself. When you think about him cleansing the temple, like the words that he was using in his behavior, that's who Jesus could be. But when you think about Jesus at the well, the woman at the well, and the words that he used with her, he wasn't cleansing her like he cleansed the temple. And so we need to be striving for that. That's the kind of gentleness that we are trying to achieve, and that we are asking that God would put a guard on our lips so that we do not say things that don't need to be said, that we are not behaving like Jesus behaved in the temple for a small thing, that we are using our words appropriately at the appropriate time. And finally, number 8, kind of a little bonus that I really, really love, is Colossians 4, verse 6. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. And I think this is really important, more so when we're in conversations with adults. Obviously, when you're having a kid conversation, you're not going to need grace and salt if you're talking about the latest episode of the TV show, or the fact that you have seen a tractor outside and what the blue tractor does versus the green tractor. But this is a good one to keep tucked away for yourself, or when your kids get older, reminding them that they need to have conversations full of grace, that we need to have the same grace in the way that we are talking to other people as how God speaks to us. God speaks forgiveness to us. He speaks love to us. He speaks honesty to us. Those are the things that he speaks into our lives, and those are the same things that we need to speak into other people's lives as well, that we need to fill our conversations with grace. And then we need to fill them with salt as well, which means that we're speaking truth. And notice that we're saying that we speak grace first and then truth. That our truth should not come and smack somebody over the head and knock them down. We need to, yes, we're seasoning things with salt, but we're not making it so salty that nobody wants to listen to us. We want to make sure that our truths are heard, that they are understood, that they are accepted. And this is where it can be so tricky, because how do you know how to answer everyone? How do you know what to say to them? And that's why we need to be steeping ourselves in scripture, and we're going to need to pray that the Holy Spirit would speak to us and give us those words. And yes, we can ask for that. If you hear your children like something's going on in the next room. Pray that the Holy Spirit would be with you and give you the words to manage that situation in a way that will allow everybody to walk away without feeling like anybody was burned. Again, that idea that our tongues can set fire to our homes, and we don't want that. We want our tongues to bring peace and harmony and discipline. It's okay to discipline. Yes, our children need that. Same with our conversations with friends. Remember that we do not want to be gossiping. We don't want to say something that's going to tear somebody down. When we're speaking with our husbands, we want to make sure that we're building them up, that we're speaking words of truth into their lives and building them up, that we're not nagging them, that we're coming to them with being on the same level as them, as their equal, as their partner, that we're not coming at them because they haven't done this and they haven't done that, and you never go here and you never do that and you're always doing this. We need to come at them with the sentiment of, I love you and I want to work with you on this. Can we sit down and talk about some of these things so that we can come to a resolution together that everyone's happy about? And so our words really, really matter. And the way that we speak to each other, the way that we speak about other people who are not present, your children are learning about that. They hear you, how you are talking about their teachers at school, or, the coworkers, or the people that they work with, or people that they've, seen or experienced. And hearing, it's okay for us to speak our minds, but making sure that we're saying things that only need to be said, not embellishing or saying things that maybe our children don't need to be hearing, and just being reminded to set that guard over our mouths, that we want to be speaking words of truth and we only need to say things that need to be said. And helping our children understand that as well. It's a big lesson for them. I'm in that kind of toddler stage now, and that preschool stage where my kids are experimenting with how they're going to speak to people, and sometimes it's not very nice. And so I say, okay, let's try that again. I would like you to come and say that to me again. And so they have to I can see they'll calm themselves down, and then they'll come, it's the exact same words, but they have calmed their voice down, and it just makes it much easier to talk to them. And I want them to learn that's how we have conversations. Or I'll say to them, I want to have a conversation about this. Absolutely. But if you are screaming and crying, we can't have a conversation. So you need to calm down and come and talk to me, and let's have a conversation. And that's how God is with us as well. I mean, we can scream and yell at God. We can get those emotions out, but God can't have a conversation with us if we are just continually screaming at him. He can't tell us anything if we just scream, if we just whine, if we just spend the whole time saying, woe is me. We can't hear him. And so that's what we also want to teach our children, is about the words that they're saying, that they need to listen, that yes, it's okay to process your information audibly. It's okay to need to figure it out, have an event that happened and you just got to talk it out. But then you also need to listen. You also need to sit back and guard your lips and consider who you're talking to, and let your conversations be filled with grace and with salt and with gentleness. And so I pray that you are able to do that this week, Mama, that I know that some of those toddler conversations are hard and you feel like you keep saying the things over and over and over again. You're a broken record, but just keep coming at them with that kindness and that gentleness and that love, and just keep reminding them, instill that in them. This is the expectation. This is how we speak. This is how we talk. This is how Mama's talking. And that's how they are going to behave as well, whether they're in your home or outside of your home. That is how God wants us to speak. That's how God will speak to us, and that's how we should be speaking to others. Thanks for joining me today. Can I ask you to do something for me? Subscribe, share what you've heard, and leave me a review. 3 little things that would make my day top notch. I pray your coffee stays hot, your kids stay calm, and you keep Jesus in your heart. Until next time, Mama, God bless.